the Fish Prince. Once upon a time, there was a king and queen who had 2 sons. The older of the 2 was very short and ugly, with only one eye that resided in the middle of his forehead. His younger brother was tall and handsome and carried himself like a prince. The king played favorites and decided to make his younger, handsome son his heir.
My people will never obey a midget with only one eye?
This made Disa, the older son, very angry.
The kingdom must be mine, or it should have been divided.
Matni, the enchantress, who was Disa's wife, determined to get the whole of the kingdom for her husband. She hosted a banquet and invited the younger brother. She then said to her husband,
"After dinner, you must sit with your brother on the balcony overlooking the river. I will change him into a fish, and then you can throw him into the water. Then we shall be rid of him."
Disa agreed to this, and after dinner invited his brother to sit with him on the balcony. Then Matni threw some powder on the younger prince's head. Just as soon as she did this, the prince was changed into a little fish, and his brother picked him up and tossed him into the river with a laugh of wicked triumph. This all happened so suddenly that the prince hardly knew what happened to him. He flailed all over the place before he struck the river's swift current. When he finally realized that he had been transformed into a fish, he swam very gracefully in the water's depths. He realized that Matni had enchanted him, and he wanted to get as far away from her as he could. So he swam until he was beyond the realm of his father's kingdom. Then, one day, he was caught in a net by some fishermen and taken to the palace of the king of this unknown land to be served up for dinner. He was not a very big fish, and the chef thought it would be much better to keep him as a pet than to cook him.
I will take it to the queen's room. She has no children. This little fish may amuse her.
The queen was very much pleased with the pretty little fish and became very fond of him. Several days passed, and he grew to be too large for the bowl. So she had another one prepared for him. He is such a dear that he shall be called Neo, the Fish Prince. After a few days, the Fish Prince grew so big that the queen had to have a tank made for him, through which the clear water of the river flowed in and out. Then one day, the queen feared that the Fish Prince was not comfortable in his tank, so she asked him, "Are you happy here, Neo?" After pondering for a moment, the Fish Prince replied,
I am quite happy here, dear Queen Mother. But if you could get me a nice wife, I would be happier. It is really quite lonely for me here, all by myself.
The answer astonished the queen, but then she did not know that he was a fish only in appearance. Now the queen looked upon the Fish Prince as her own son, and never imagined that any girl would have the least objection to marrying him. "All right, I will find you a wife at once and have a room built in the tank for her." She had the room built at once, but it was not an easy matter to find a wife for the Fish Prince. Everybody knew that Neo was a pet of the queen's, but beyond that, it was pure gossip. The townsfolk even said he was a monster of a fish, and that all he wanted a wife for was to eat her. But the queen sent messengers far and wide among the rich and the poor alike, but found no parents who were willing to give their daughter as a wife to the Fish Prince. Then the queen offered a large sum of gold to any father who would send his daughter to be the Fish Prince's wife. But nothing came of it for a long time. At last, a fakir heard of the large offer of gold and said to the messenger,
You may have my eldest daughter. She can't be much worse off than where she is now, and the gold will make me rich. Where is she? She's down by the river washing. She's my first wife's child, and her stepmother makes her do all the hard work and will not give her enough to eat.
She gets more than she deserves. Much more than she deserves. You're welcome to take her. We will be glad to be rid of her. And if the fish prince wants to eat her, fine.
So the messenger gave the bag of gold to the fakir and went to the river, where he found a very pretty girl washing clothes on the river's bank. She cried very much when she heard what his duty was, and begged him to let her say goodbye to an old friend before he took her away.
Who is this friend? The queen said we're in a hurry.
It is a 7-headed cobra, whom I have known ever since I was a little child. Still crying, the girl ran along the bank, and the cobra put his 7 heads out of the hole where he lived.
I know all about it. Don't cry. Pick up those 3 pebbles outside my hole and put them in your dress. When you see Neo coming, throw them first at him. If it hits him, he will sink to the bottom of the tank. When he rises to the surface, hit him with a second rock, and the same thing will happen. Throw the 3rd pebble at him, and he will transform from a fish to a prince.
He isn't really a fish?
He is the son of a king and is under an enchantment. But you can break the enchantment in the way that I have told you.
So Maya dried her tears and went away with the messenger to the palace, where they showed her a beautiful little room that had been prepared for her inside the tank where the fish prince lived. The queen kissed her and said, "You are just the dear little wife I want for my Neo." She let them put her into the little room, where she sat down and waited for a long time with the pebbles in her hand. Then there was a sound of rushing water and of waves dashing against the door. She looked out, and there was a huge fish swimming towards her with his mouth wide open.
I want to see my wife. Open this door.
Trembling from head to foot with fright, Maya opened the door and threw the first pebble, which went right down his throat. He sunk like a stone, but in a minute or two came up to the surface again. Then Maya threw the second pebble, which hit the fish prince on the head, and he sunk the second time. Maya was so nervous that she nearly missed hitting him with the 3rd pebble, for it only touched the tip of his fin. This time, he did not sink, but changed into a handsome prince.
You have broken my enchantment. Now we can enjoy sunshine and happiness in the world above, and need not live in a tank any longer.
So they were drawn up out of the water and taken to the palace, where no one could possibly live happier than Maya and the fish prince ever after. The end. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get future updates. And don't forget to comment.